I'm Matthew, an Amazon AI voice, and I'll be speaking as, and for, Andrew Mather, in this beta release of this webinar. We begin. How much would you pay to get on a call with Elon Musk, and what would you ask them? Or choose someone else? Tony Robbins perhaps. Could he make a profound difference in your life in 30 minutes? Maybe. Probably not. What would he likely advise you? Your name here, I'd love to help you, and I think the most powerful thing you could do right now would be to come to one of our events. I'm sure he'd be right. Tony Robbins is fantastic. I had one of the best years of my life with him, 30 years ago. But did it really create a profound transformation in me? Did it change my path? Did it change society? I'm going to show you something more powerful. That will change your life, guaranteed. That will change society, guaranteed. Why change society? If you have to ask, there's little point in explaining. Not right now at least. We'll show you what we're talking about later in this webinar. Right now, let's identify if you're in the right place and should be watching this webinar. If you're in a recognized profession, earning at least $50,000 per annum. But you're ambitious, passionate, and want a lot more, then yes, you're in the right place. If that's not you, then it's me who's at fault, not you. I'm not in a position to make a difference in your life, not right now. I need smart, confident, proven, capable people, with a passionate desire to be more, because between us we can do something magical. We can kickstart a new society. What that society is, and why we need it, is a topic we'll cover later. The main thing is that in inviting me to catalyze your success, and rewarding me appropriately, you'll be funding our creation of that new world. No, it's not some fancy way of enrolling you into MLM, or affiliate marketing. In fact, those would disqualify you from our world. At least for now. Maybe forever. We'll see. There's no need to second guess. Just understand that if you qualify, then yes, you should continue watching. If not, there's no law against watching, but sooner or later, we're going to have to say no to working with you, at least for right now. Let's get started. And first, let me introduce myself, Andrew Mather. 60 plus years old, white British male, and if that's a problem, that's wonderful. Our new world has no room for people who judge other people. In fact, I really should have said that up front. You don't have to be an angel or a saint, but you do have to have high personal integrity and a good heart. Now why would you want to listen to me? Well, why don't you listen to yourself first? I'm going to ask you a question, then I'm going to give you 30 seconds to think about it. I'm going to lose a lot of you most likely, just by asking you and giving you 30 seconds of silence. But the ones who stay, the ones who sincerely engage in this exercise, the ones who come back clear, they're who I want to work with. So, here's my question, but it's not to you. I'm going to invite you to relax, chill, do what you need, and I'm going to invite you to move forward in your imagination to being 60 years old. Ask your older self, to make clear to you now, the answer to this question, or rather these questions. Ready? Ask your 60-year-old you, am I ready to fulfill a dream I may not even have discovered yet? Will my understanding and personality need to grow beyond recognition to fulfill that dream? Can I guarantee to learn not only how to fulfill my dream as a person, but also how to know what a person would have to know to fulfill that dream? Is there a world of experience that I just don't have, and I don't know what I don't know, or have that experience, or that I need it? And would my path to success in life be much easier if I had a guide, a companion, a mentor who had taken on challenges far greater than I can imagine, and who has a lifetime of experience to share? I'm going to go silent for 30 seconds. I sincerely invite you to embrace being open to ask these questions, in service to your highest and older selves. The decision you make today will be key. So, for those of you who are still here, give me a 0 to 9 in the chat box. 0 is I'm out of here, this is a waste of time, oh wait, they're already gone. 9 is I am so totally up for this. I get why this is so important. Okay. So, notice that I didn't ask you whether I was the right person to be a guide, mentor and companion as you move forward. You retain your faculties, your cognitive ability. I trust that you'll make an informed decision, based on who we are, and how we can support your dream. First, ultra fast. I'm a mathematician, fancier, tech, analyst and member of Mensa. My passions are psychology, personal development, e-commerce, automation, and the design of societies, platforms and worlds. So if your business is dog training, and your dream is a worldwide network of dog trainers, then I can guide you in every aspect of that dream, except the dog training. There's a general principle here. You are the domain expert in your field of business. You are the domain expert in your desires and dreams. You are the domain expert in your life choices. Except, you're not really. I say that for several reasons. You have acquired only a tiny fraction of the expertise you will need and take for granted by the time you're 60, 70, 80, and are then passing on your knowledge to young people like yourself. Your understanding of your business and of business itself will have expanded beyond recognition by then, regardless of whether you succeed or fail. Your understanding of your identity and personality will have expanded beyond recognition by then, regardless of whether you succeed or fail. Your understanding of your life choices will have expanded beyond recognition by then, regardless of whether you succeed or fail. There are a couple of things you should understand. I will never instruct you as to what to do. That would be a fundamental violation of my core philosophy, which I describe as I am. Part 2, I am. We won't get into it today, not in any depth, but suffice it to say, and even if you disagree, it is simple to observe that you have the final say in every decision, every choice you ever make. You can be influenced, you can be coerced, you can be brought up, indoctrinated, programmed, but what you cannot be is a victim of anything but your own choices. Why do I say that? Simple. First, any influence on you from the outside world, is it instantly processed or is there a delay while it's being processed? Second, for any influence, let's say a command, is there a single, universal response that every human being will demonstrate uniformly without exception to that command? Let me give you a benchmark for contrast. Have you ever discovered a single instance where you dropped something and it didn't fall to the ground? Gravity is universal, and if anyone ever invents an anti-gravity device, it will still respect gravity, but bend it to its will. Gravity is universal. Every response to gravity is uniform. There is no decision, no choice. It just is. Now, you can argue against my position that you always have the final say. It is a trait of humans, that no matter what anyone says, you can always disagree. Which demonstrates that you have the final say. So even if you disagree with my observation, you demonstrate by disagreeing that you have the final say, that you do in fact have the final say. In your sense of self, are you a conscious actor, who hears or sees the influencing element, and arrives at an opinion in a state of self-awareness? I'm not asking whether you think you have free will. Only you can decide that. That's the whole point. You have the final say. I'm simply asking if once an influence is perceived, does it have an inevitable effect, like morphine say, or is the event a matter of internal processing and argument, reflection, and finally choice? If the final outcome is instantaneous, uniform and inevitable, then it is like gravity. The external world defines you. If the final outcome is delayed, variable and subject to choice, then it is not like gravity. The internal world defines you. If the internal world defines you, then that's you, having the final say. I am comfortable saying that for me, I am aware that I am. That I am aware, and experience life consciously, makes my decisions just that, internal decisions, my decisions. My internal decision is that I have the final say. That, I refer to as my I am. You may disagree, but if you disagree, that's you having the final say, so you still have the final say, exactly as I'm suggesting. You are still free to disagree, but that's of no interest or relevance to me. I respect your I am. I respect that you are not me. I respect that you are a unique and separate individual. I know there are many things on which we are going to disagree. That's the beauty of existence. That's the beauty of awareness. So, congratulations. Whatever you may think or believe, you've just experienced a first exposure to my mind and my world. And notice that it was painless, or at least I hope so. And critically, note also that I have zero interest in your trust, belief, obedience, liking, appreciation or any other quality. I am what I am. Those of you with a religious background may reflect on that. Maybe it wasn't a name, but a statement. Maybe it was a way of saying politely, you, a primitive tribesman, cannot possibly understand what I am, so why don't we just accept that I exist, and leave it at that? Now, think of all your relationships, all your discussions, all the ways that the government, your friends, your boss, your influencers, relate to you, and how you relate to them. How often would you say they relate to you as just you, totally courteous and respectful, with zero opinion as to what you should do, what you should think and how you should behave? And how often, especially during a certain health scare, was the position the opposite, that coercion, threat, manipulation, interference, Even information control you have no idea about, was used instead. I've just given you a profound philosophical tool for life. It may help you to appreciate and understand how life works, and how humans operate. It may assist you in relating to yourself and to others. I've also just given you a profound ethical framework, that illustrates how you could choose to relate to others. It might take some practice, but it comes down to being courteous and respectful. How reasonable is that? Your position as you might state it to another, might be, to me, you are a unique and precious human, who nevertheless cannot possibly understand every nuance of who I am, as a unique and precious human, so why don't we just accept that I'm me, and leave it at that? Your position, as to how you will relate to them, as stated to them, might be, I, as a separate, unique and precious human, cannot possibly understand who you are, as a separate, equally unique and precious human, so why don't we just accept that you're you, and leave it at that? Now, can anyone see how that might change or affect the way they deal with others, or how they tolerate or cope with how others deal with them? It is ultimately no more than, treat others with courtesy, respect that they have their own life, that they have their own choices to make, and that it's not your job to make them for them, or theirs to make them for you. Instantly, those of you who are inclined to control others, you may be rebelling and disagreeing. You might imagine this to be a libertarian stance perhaps, or that of an individualist. No. It arises from the simple observation that regardless of influence, an individual always has the final say. That is inevitable. If someone always has the final say, regardless of what you do or say, then why not allow yourself to step back and accept that yes, they have the final say. Their decision may not be your choice, or appeal to you, or be consistent with your personal positions, but what are you claiming if you wish to control them, other that you have a superior processor? To go through life, thinking that you have a superior processor, is entirely within your prerogative, as an internal memory position, but the moment you apply it to your relations with another person, then you fail to treat them as an equal. Is that fair, reasonable, or justified? It is remarkable what human beings can indeed justify, even killing, or mass killing of other human beings. Strangely, the people doing this are also the ones claiming to have superior processors. Maybe, try imagining a world where every processor was respected as unique and precious. What would that look like? It seems to me, a lot like world peace. Until you can find a human being without a brain, without a sense of self, then the final say always resides with them. You can disagree that they have a brain. You can disagree that they have a final say. But that just proves that you at least have the final say. Why would you imagine they are not precisely like you? It is not a philosophy. It is an observation. It is the simplest observation of all. You, as a human being, are an I/O device. You receive input. You process it. You generate output. So, are you going to tell me that you don't process input? That response is a response to my input. So yes, you process input, which demonstrates that you have the final say. You cannot escape this. You can only use your ego to insist on control. You can disregard that others have their own processors. You can disregard that others will make their own choices. It is worth noting that this in no way allows you to point to compliance as evidence that your processor is right. A person can very reasonably decide that compliance is easier and safer. Nor does this reject or nullify any of the phenomena such as control, influence, education, manipulation. A corrupted and vulnerable processor still has the final say. It is simply more likely to align with the corrupting influence. And why would there be corrupting influences? For many reasons, but mostly for the obvious. If you can gain by winning against another processor and obliging its compliance, then why respect it? You can choose to dominate it instead. The moment you decide that your processor is superior to their processor, and that gives you the right to impose your process onto them. That is tyranny. Simple as that. So, here's the thing. As your coach, guide, mentor and companion, my commitment to you is that I will never engage in tyranny. Will you offer me the same courtesy in return? Give me a 9 in the chat box if this is a breath of fresh air to you, and give me a 0 in the chat box if this is totally abhorrent, and you utterly disagree. Interesting. The 9s can stay. The 0s can leave, if they haven't already. I have zero interest in working with people who cannot and will not respect other human beings. I will offer you courtesy and respect. If you cannot offer me courtesy and respect, please leave. What you have just experienced is your first experience of one of my styles of guidance. It was also a simple filtering mechanism. Why would we want to offer something miraculous and beautiful to people who would taint it with their toxic control, opinions and agendas? We, my friends, as I see you and consider you, are going to build a free and fair society. But before I get to that, Let's talk about you. Part 3, your dream. You have a sense of who you are. You have a sense of where you are, in life, in your business, in your career. You have a sense of your dream. You have the opportunity to onboard a guide, a mentor, a companion. Ignore your need to understand what I am. Focus solely on your needs, your imagination. In what areas would you appreciate having a sounding board, a source of insight and wisdom, and a health check on the sanity and potential of your dreams and ambitions? In which area would you say you have a priority, your highest priority, and what would that look like? How important, how critical, is addressing that priority? How much would it mean to you to have that priority sorted? You'll have the opportunity to go away and think about it. You can in your own time, dig deep and deal with any issues you have, emotional, psychological, financial, and then you can come to a determination. If it's clear to you that yes, you would love to have a resource to provide clarity and guidance, and potentially resolve your priority, then great. Identify how much that would be worth to you. It's your life, your decision, your choice, when you come up with that number. My hint would be, focus entirely on you. You cannot know what I am, regardless of how much I share with you. Instead, focus entirely on what your dream really is, and what it would take to get you there. When you engage with us, if we choose to accept your proposal, you will have a guide, a mentor, a friend for life. Unless of course you allow that to fade. However, the first 30 days will be critical. We will be intensely focused on maximizing change during that time, to establish you on a trajectory, most likely to lead to success. We will need to understand you, understand your dream, and come up with a roadmap, including necessary skills, resources and actions to move you forward with intention, and allow you to demonstrate to yourself that this is real. A final hint about money. You might offer $100,000 or more, and yet we might still decline, if we feel this isn't a good fit. And we might accept $90, if we see the impact you could have on the world. Once you've pitched your proposal, and I ask if you'd like to make an offer, during our call, you can politely say no, if you're not feeling it. Or you can outline your offer, including a figure, and it has to be a figure where your heart says yes, this is worth it. We'll say more about the call at the end, but now let's turn to my dream, which will give you a sense of who I am, what I'm capable of, and how I intend to create and shape a new society. Part 4, New Society. Do you think that everything's fine, the government are doing their best, and the important thing is to get ahead, make your money, and live the dream? I regret to say that I could not work with you. People who live in a fantasy land, without awareness of the nature of society, without understanding what's going on in the world, will not make effective partners going forward. I will not take you deep into my world, but it is not difficult, if you have the most basic awareness, to recognize the following. We observe that wealth and power are concentrated in a very tiny few, an elite. That this elite have desires, agendas, focused on wealth, and control. That there are titan corporations both obvious and less familiar. Obvious titans include Google, who also own YouTube. Then there's Facebook, who also own Instagram and WhatsApp. Between them, they own around 60% of the online ad space. Together, they are 15 times larger than their next biggest rival, Microsoft, at a derisory 4%. Less obvious titans are those such as BlackRock. Let me put that another way. As I know to my cost, get shut out of Google and Facebook, and your online career is effectively over. It's too big a hit. Imagine if all it took to sabotage a lifetime's work was 2 bad decisions, from AI, with essentially zero oversight, negligible appeal, nowhere comparable to start again, and no societal control or redress. That isn't an open market. That's a crushing duopoly, but nobody in government notices. Funny that. There are think tanks, institutions, organizations, such as the WEF and WHO, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, which enjoy unprecedented influence in shaping our world, even removing fundamental democratic rights. But the most fundamental and obvious insidious narrative is the influence of corporations on government, and the influence of government, via the media and online titans, on society. This is not a political or anti-capitalist diatribe. I will simply ask if your dream is to make Google and Facebook even richer, as they siphon off your wealth, while you give 70% of your company to a VC, trying to get wealthy yourself? I'm sorry. Here I am saying that for you to earn, you have to first give 70% of your company to a VC, then you have to give a hefty slice to Google or Facebook, then you get to make and keep your money. That is so absurd, and I apologize. The reality, of course, is far worse. You actually have to give 70% of a company to a VC, then you have to give a hefty slice to Google or Facebook, then you have to pay off the government so they can go to war in your name. If there's anything left, that's great, and finally you can pay for your necessities to survive, and the necessities for your spouse and your children. You will of course have your house and college debt to finance, as well as a car, and anything left, well, now you're living the dream, and can save for retirement. To understand how brutal ordinary life is, when you're not a favored member of the elite, go and watch the first 5 minutes of Up, by Disney. It is the most poignant and heartbreaking narrative about love, about dreams and life that you'll ever see, and it's in a kid's movie. Remarkable. Even if your sole interest is economic or financial, it would be massively beneficial to you to live in a world, or inside a society, where your success wasn't diluted or destroyed by funding Google and YouTube, Facebook, and VCs. At least that's what we think, so we've designed just such a society. And by society, we initially mean a platform, a community. But by its success and influence, if we achieve that, it may indeed reshape society at large. If we can demonstrate an ethical business ecosystem that embraces shared wealth, not elite wealth, then others might wish to implement similar systems, or to migrate their businesses to our platform. It is a society that will be born and hosted on the internet, but it has the capacity to evolve beyond the internet. Let me be clear, I'm not talking about beyond the internet and into, say, physical commerce in your local store. I'm talking about a replacement for the internet itself. More specifically, the internet is a transport layer and an expression layer, HTML. We're talking about a world beyond HTML, beyond search, beyond Google. Our technology was invented 30 years ago, to shut down the flawed protocol HTML. It may finally get its chance to do so. It is a society where advertising is unnecessary. Marketing is achieved by a very different mechanism. That mechanism needs to be protected, so we cannot say more, not before we have that IP protection in place. It is a society where wealth is distributed horizontally, not vertically. That too is a breakthrough paradigm that needs to be protected. Others could implement it, but if motivated by greed, their success destroys the very purpose for its invention. This isn't some hypothetical dream. I'm a financier in tech. I design protocols, systems and architectures. Then I prove them, in software. This is real, very real. I have twice come up against Sir Tim Berners-Lee and his inventions, and twice anticipated them or rejected them. The first was in seeking that universal data paradigm, which HTML is not. The second was in delivering that paradigm, where my foundational insight recognized the fundamental primacy of triples, hence Aurora Trinity, only to discover later, that Sir Tim had been of similar mind, with his semantic web. Again however, his vision is not enough. Both his technologies lacked a core requirement, which we designed in from the outset, which we'll describe later. It is why, no matter how advanced modern technologies might be, they will never accomplish what I made possible over 30 years ago. Now, jumping forward those 30 years, I believe that the internet had won. The day before I invented this, I would have told you, with a heavy heart, that Google, Facebook and similar titans had achieved such dominance, that any revolution would have to be in the streets, in society, and imagine the chaos. Instead, which I consider a miracle or astonishing potential, we might be the agent for peaceful change. With mass awakening, the second coming, alien invasion, all seeming absent for now, the idea that we could transform the planet peacefully, by simple e-commerce seems a dream. For this to be made real, the first architecture we need is storage. It has to be a mechanism that eliminates the monopoly enjoyed by titan corporations, who hold so much data about our personal lives. I invented and proved that technology a long time ago. The second architecture we need is e-commerce. We want to be able to market our world and our participants' businesses without advertising. The titan corporations and elite have acquired extreme wealth, and almost total, dominant control, beyond anything dreamed of by Orwell, who had only televisions and policemen at his service. Why should we continue to enrich the titans, who manipulate voters by selectively showing them only the news that would best bias them to the desired party? That has been demonstrated by a very smart professor, Dr. Robert Epstein. We recognize the potential to once again transform society, which is why we are making ourselves available right now. We need to enrich not Google, but the people who can fund our new world, simply by paying us what we're worth, to them. We're talking about you, maybe. A hint to those of you dreaming of startups and VCs. If VCs knew how to make businesses successful, they wouldn't need 70% of your company, for when 70% of their portfolio fails. We know how to bypass VCs. We've just given you a hint how to do so for your own company. You might want to reflect on that when you're considering your proposal. Where do Google and Facebook acquire their dominance? What happens if we make advertising a legacy model? If advertising becomes redundant, what happens to the titans? Apparently, horses and buggies were once popular. What else do we need? If we're not going to enrich the elite, who then are we going to enrich? We don't need it. We're old, and we'll move on. How about we share the wealth with the people who are creating the wealth? We can't say more, and we've probably said too much. These financial and system structures need to be protected. That will cost. That too means money that we have to earn, before we can truly protect this and then move forward. So, a world built by the people, wealth shared by the people, information openly distributed among the people. That sounds a lot closer to the ideal than the fraudulent democracy we experience today. In our view, government today is not of the people. By the people. For the people. Rather it is of the people. By the elite. For the elite. And that is hardly a surprise, nor anything new. While our technologies have developed beyond recognition, we still operate by the elite-driven structures of Rome. Bread and circuses has become welfare and entertainment. For the record, a democracy is where the people control the government. A society where the people are told what to think and they obey the government, rather than controlling it, is not a democracy. So, that's what we're up to, in a nutshell. It's only a glimpse. After all, this is a webinar. It's not a pitch for our world. We'll do our Apple 1984 ad in due course. Part 5, Social Proof, Peerless Reads. For now, we'll just do our social proof. Psychologists and marketers say it's important to have social proof. We think that's sad, especially when it's so easily faked or abused, but there you go. We prefer due diligence, and that brings us to Peerless Reads. When the stories got ever more dramatic in 2020, about the threat looming in the health scare, I did not pay ever closer attention to the media. I went and checked the data. The WHO, for all its sins, and governments, for that matter, are diligent and open about data. It's ironic. They lie to our faces in the media, yet allow us access to their data, the same data that shows the lie. We've seen it in road safety. We published our findings in Speeding, a Policy of Deception. You can satisfy yourself that we're real by checking it out on Amazon. We've seen it in the 9/11 narrative. We published that analysis in 9/11 Pentagon strike. Again, you can do your due diligence by checking us out on Amazon. We've seen it in the pandemic. We published 90 videos on Peerless Reads on YouTube. Our first video was published the morning after lockdown was announced and got 300,000 views, with zero advertising, on a brand new channel, all in 3 days. And as we pointed out as a disclaimer in our later videos, all our analysis is based on government data. If you have a problem with the results, speak to the government. In fact, fraud pretty much characterizes every government narrative you can think of. It's ironic. People who live in dark rooms with their television sets on, aka, the mass and the mass media, think it's absurd to suggest that governments lie. Those who actually live in the enlightened environment of data, facts and statistics, would say rather the opposite, which is that the government and media exist for only one purpose, which is precisely to sell you their sponsor's latest agenda, aka lie. But no matter. Peerless Reads, our book channel, was repurposed to become a resource for facts and data on the health scare. It's still standing as of the time of this video. It is a public record that we exist and have integrity. And if you imagine that the systems and architectures we mention might be vaporware, well, in a sense, they are. They were real, but we've long since abandoned them. We began our journey with this technology before we even had our first copy of Microsoft Windows, long before HTML, but the internet won. To you, that may seem obvious, and in a sense it is. The victor not only rewrites history but is by definition in that history, the victor. Aurora would have been equally obvious, had we won. We recognized the need for a global information world, years before Sir Tim revealed HTML 1.0. We saw the critical qualities needed for such a world, and when we saw HTML years later, our heart fell. Information would be scattered over thousands of documents, make that billions today. Search would be a nightmare. This was not the technology I needed. I would have to invent my own. Notice, and a big lesson to you dreamers, the problem is the key. Had I framed that a search is going to be a nightmare, this will be popular, I'll solve the search problem and get rich, well. I spotted it in 1991. Google only launched in 1998. You figure that out. Sad, financially. Much sadder for the world and freedom, but no matter. Unusually and entirely unexpectedly, it seems we get a second shot. But first, let's show that we weren't kidding. Go to our nemesis, Google, and go to Google Patents specifically. Do a search on Mather Andrew Harvey, and note the patents revealed. They may not say Aurora, global brain, fluid data. Patents cite the utility not the marketing. But they're clearly tech and data oriented. Check the date of the first, 1997. A year before Google launched in 1998, I had devised, proven and patented a technology in 1997 to provide a coherent global brain. Not AI, though it could have cooperated with AI, which is a very exciting potential. We even blend with quantum, and quantum AI. No, just data stores with one quality that is critical, to end a world of billions or trillions of files containing data. If only it was built into the protocol that data could merge seamlessly, automatically, based on a simple, inviolable principle. Then data stores could merge automatically into ever larger stores, merging finally into one coherent store, a global brain. No other protocol can mirror that, because no other protocol designer, no matter how gifted, recognized the critical necessity to blend and merge data stores automatically. Without that, their protocols are rigid, isolated, inflexible, ensuring isolation and fragmentation of data and information. We designed in the key characteristic of liquids, particularly water, which is its intrinsic ability to merge, droplet, into puddle, pond, stream, river, lake and ocean, until finally water spans the globe. So also with Aurora, fluid data, designed to enable a global brain. Part 6, Transition. Perhaps you don't believe us. Perhaps you're smart enough to think that you can defeat our logic in IM, defeat our logic in our society, defeat our logic in the health scare, defeat our logic in technology. Fair enough. We knew someone like that once. But here's the thing, did you stand up during the health scare, and protect people with data and analysis? Did your work reach hundreds of thousands of people, and were you thanked by 6 professors and a professor emeritus, and that was just your first video? Have you been at the leading edge of any industry, let alone the hyper-competitive finance industry, for years, and been headhunted from founding one leading department, to founding a second? Have you been invited to join Mensa, and present to Panda, another bit of social proof that our brain works? And have you got patents to your name, professionally crafted and very expensive patents, in a very competitive field? We don't BS. We have high integrity. In fact, our biggest concern is, how about yours? That and your character. And finally the quality of your dream. Is it real? Is it big enough? Are you a legitimate, passionate, motivated achiever? Part 7, Next Steps. It's not false scarcity when we say we can't work with everyone. It's a simple, blunt fact. Naked ambition isn't enough. Lack of ambition though is a killer. A good heart, a good brain, and a good idea. That's basically it. How much is it going to cost to work with us? $99. What, you thought it would cost you thousands of dollars? It might. It almost certainly will. That's up to you and your proposal. $99 eliminates the unsure, the casual, the skeptical, the time wasters. If your future isn't worth $99, that's up to you. If you think we're not worth $99, after all you've heard, we could say that's absurd. Still, we'll just let it slide, and move on. How much you're really going to invest in your success is up to you. We've invested millions. The internet won the first time, and it's given us exactly the world we feared. But, astonishingly, it's revealed its Achilles heel, advertising. And so we can take it down, offering a new world in its place. A free and fair society, based on new paradigms, a new paradigm for marketing, and wealth creation. A new paradigm for participation, and wealth sharing. An old paradigm reborn, for the information substrate. It could be an extraordinary world, but it can't be truly born without you. You don't have to have the slightest interest in it, but you do have to have a passionate interest in your own success. If we help you with that, that will fund our vision. Someday, even if you reject this opportunity today, you may find yourself migrating to our world. For those of you who take the plunge today, let me tell you what we're offering. $99 buys you the right to submit a proposal. We are not obligated to accept your proposal. You get to pitch it to us in a 30-minute call. At the end of which you get to invite us to accept your proposal. If it feels like you have a sincere, legitimate proposal. If it feels like you're a person of good heart and good character. If it feels like you've respected our time and commitment. And we believe we can deliver what you need, we're in. If we decline, it's not a judgment on you. It's just a sense that this is not a good fit, not for us, not right now. However, we do not wish to leave you without a benefit, above and beyond the opportunity to create and practice your pitch. Though, having said that, for those of you with a dream, the motivating opportunity to pitch us, and get that real experience, should be worth far more than $99 right there. Nevertheless, we always want our friends and even strangers to win, so your $99 will entitle you to lifetime participation in our free and fair society initiative, at the personal level. Now I'd like to take a moment before closing. You've heard a great deal about me, and about my proposed dream, as well as your opportunity to pitch your dream, should you wish to do so. But now I have a question, and I want to give you an opportunity to reflect. You are, very likely, young, or at least young, compared to me. You still have your energy, your vitality, your passions and hopes. The biggest hope, most likely, is that life will work out. It won't. I guarantee that whatever you imagine for your future, it will not come to pass, not as you hope for it. It may greatly exceed your wildest dreams, or it may be the source of the most bitter disappointment, a crushing, dark, night of the soul, lasting years or decades. I've experienced both, and if you'll allow me to point them out, I've experienced the soaring astonishment and delight at realizing I had a world-shaping technology in my mind, and later on my PC. I've also had the devastating acknowledgement that I'd given all my life, my one shot at life, to a dream that was very real, but thanks to my naivety as a young man, thanks to my emotional and psychological limitations, I had failed. Now, you may imagine that I must be terribly messed up, and how awful, for such a misguided person to do something they clearly weren't equipped for. Well, that's precisely my point. Did your school, your parents, your education, your training, your profession, qualify you in all the fields you're going to need to master, if you want to see your dream made real? I'll give you a hint. If you're a blunt, down-to-earth person who is straightforward, almost to the point of pugnacity, and you excel at getting good deals and getting money out of people, then frankly yes, that's a great personality to succeed. Why? Because you're already doing the most important thing you need to do in business, which is to get money out of people. Grant Cardone, as well as some dear friends of mine, are the epitome of such focused and driven high achievers. Are you likely to invent world-shaping technologies with that personality? Unlikely, but who cares, if you just keep making money, right? And if you're not that personality, what then? Well, everything that such a blunt, money-focused personality takes for granted, you're going to need to put in place, because business is that simple. It's all about money. I'm not that way. Most people aren't. And 90% of most new businesses fail. Is that a coincidence, do you think? The art of success isn't being what you're not. It's having someone wrap you in the skills, experience, team members, structures and habits that you'll need, so that you can be you, and still have your dream. The absolute best demonstration of that is one of the most invaluable resources for an entrepreneur, and it's free. It is the 2 series of Undercover Billionaire, free on Amazon Prime. I watched Grant Cardone go from $0 to $1 million in 90 days. Amazing. And the key takeaways from the 2 series are simple. You have to enroll others in your dream, you have to be mesmerizing, in that ability to have people do what you want, for free until you can pay them. You have to be driven. And you have to be hyper-aware of potential. Sorry to be blunt, but you really have to ask yourself, are you, at that level? Are you, right now, a world-class entrepreneur who can stand alongside Jobs, Bezos, Zuckerberg, Page, or even the second-ranked notables like Tony Robbins, Grant Cardone, Anik Singhal, etc.? I don't just borrow these names. Tony Robbins, Grant Cardone, Anik Singhal, I've lived them, watched them, got to know them. Anik, I spent over $11,000 for an event, and he was priceless. Awesome. They all are. They're just not me. There's a rocket docked at Bay 19. You can be on that rocket, if you set all your doubts and fears aside, and get a world-class innovator, financier and techie on your side, who has all the psychology, personal development, and e-commerce experience you could dream of, to ensure you won't fail. Or you can go back to your desk, or device and continue to dream. There's no law against dreaming. It keeps the majority sane. I just thought you were different. Are you? Are you a pioneer, an adventurer, a hero or heroine, at heart? It's up to you. If you've made it this far, thank you and congratulations. Continue to the next step by clicking the button below. We look forward to hearing about your dream.